Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And today we have Craig Latimer, Supervisor of Elections for Hillsborough County. I'm really delighted to have you on.
It's good to be here, Bill. It's good to see you again, too.
There's always all kinds of rumors and things circulating about elections. Every election in Florida, especially, you leave the state and people start talking about hanging chads and things like that. But we're not going to have that anymore, right, Craig?
No, we're not. No, we're not. We have optical scan, which has a paper ballot, so we've got a paper trail. We can always go back to those ballots if there's ever any dispute or any issue that has to deal with an election. So times have changed greatly, and there's a lot of good processes.
For good.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good processes that are in place to make sure that the machines are counting appropriately and counting properly, and that the votes are being counted as they were cast.
Now, you're finishing up your second year, correct?
Very close to it, yes.
Of Supervisor of Elections.
Yes.
You followed a really great guy. Earl is just one of the neatest people I've ever seen. And I see the office running smoothly and nicely, so I don't suspect you've made a whole lot of changes, and the ones you've made appear to be good.
We've been doing a great job. We've got a great team together, and we're very focused. You know, we've got a big election coming up, the governor's election. We've been very focused on the planning to get us there. You know, I kid around sometimes. People say, you know, well, what do you do, you know, when they're in an election? And I tell them, you know, we're a lot like NASA. We just sit around till it's time to throw the next shuttle up in the air and push the button.
Push the button and away it goes, yeah.
But, you know, we've got about $15 million worth of voting equipment that's computerized that we're constantly checking, doing preventive maintenance on, getting our routes ready, making sure that we've secured our 300 polling sites that we have throughout the county.
300?
Approximately 300 polling sites around the county.
How many people would you expect to vote in both the primary and then in the general election?
I got to tell you, that's a good question. I've looked back historically at the different races, and primaries generally are a lot less turnout than the general election is. Some people are just, you know, I'll just wait till the general election and vote. You know, we see people that only vote every 4 years for the presidential, and they vote in the general. They don't vote in the primary. That's interesting to us because you know, the primary election is because Florida's a closed primary state. So whatever party you're in, you're basically nominating your candidate to move forward to the general election. So it's very important, we feel, for people to vote in a primary, regardless of whether you are in one of the major parties or even no party affiliation or other parties, which makes up over 27% of our voters right now.
Yeah, the independent voter doesn't get to vote on any of these candidates to speak of.
Yes, they do.
They do. How do they do that?
They get to vote in all the nonpartisan races, which are your school board and all your judicial races. Plus, if there was any referendum, they would be allowed to vote in that also. So again, they can make a difference. And their vote,
very big difference in those races,
much.
especially. Now, of course, the general election, lots of difference. Let's go back and start with, I just moved to Florida, or I just got to be 21. How do I register to vote?
Well,
I must register, correct?
That is correct. You must register to be able to vote. And actually, you must register at least 29 days prior to the election. So you can't, you know, walk up at the last minute, register, and want to vote. And the reason for that is that what you're going to do is fill out a voter registration application. It's got all your information on it: name, address, date of birth. It's also going to ask for your Florida driver's license number or ID card number, or if you don't have that, it's going to ask for the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. We then send all that information to the state, and the state makes a match on that information.
They verify it.
They would verify that you exist, that this is your last 4 of your social, or this is your driver's license number, and if you've gotten a driver's license lately, you know how much information you have to produce to get that.
That's true.
And once that's done, then that's now an official file. We know that you are eligible to vote, that you meet all the requirements and you're eligible to vote.
Where do I go to do all of this?
You can go to any library. We have forms in all the libraries, yes. Or you can go online to www.votehillsborough.org. You can actually fill out the information online, but then you have to download it, print it out, or not download it, print it out.
So you can sign it?
So you can sign it, because we do have to have a wet signature. There's a lot of conversations. As a matter of fact, there was a bill this last year in the legislature to do online registration. where they would then capture your signature from the driver's license files, basically.
Oh, okay.
When you've gone to get a driver's license. So if you have a driver's license or a Florida ID card, you would be able to do an online registration because they could import your signature right from that source. That did not pass this year, though, so don't try it.
Does either the ID card or the driver's license prove your citizenship?
The driver's license does now. Under the Real ID Act, the driver's license now is able to prove your citizenship, basically, because you're having to furnish the appropriate information. Non-citizens can get licenses, but they're now filed separately.
So all of this I hear about, you don't have to be a citizen to vote and all of this, you can sneak in there and do it. That's not true, correct?
That is not true. And you know, basically when you fill out that application, you're also swearing under oath that you are a citizen of the United States and that you're eligible to vote.
When I do this, then you're going to send me a voter ID card?
I will send you a voter information card within just several days. And that voter information card will have all of your information on it with your party affiliation. It will also have the information on what particular races you vote in or who represents you, which congressional seat, which Senate seat, which House seat, county commission, if you're in the city, what city of Tampa
you print that out and send it to me?
That's all on your card.
Really?
That's all on your card, yes, sir.
That's pretty good. I love your website, by the way.
Thank you.
Any of you that are thinking about voting here in Hillsborough County, you can go and find just about everything you'd ever want to know about voting there. Who's running, who's qualified, who isn't qualified, who's done how many years in office. There's all kinds of things there, correct?
And actually, we're going to be adding a little bit to that, too, because we'll be putting up candidate bios of candidates that now qualify as we come up to the qualifying period.
Really?
So we'll have candidate bios on there, too, and then they'll have a link to their website to take you to their website if you want more information.
I'm assuming the candidates will furnish those. They won't be written by somebody in your office.
That is correct. They will be furnished by the candidate, and it's a bio. It's not a campaign piece. It's a bio.
That's really nice. There's a lot of people running that a lot of people just don't know about. I mean, good people, but they don't have the money, and money's a big thing in elections, as you well know, to do that.
Well, and that's, you know, one of the beauties of vote by mail is that you can vote in the comfort of your own home. And if you want to take the time to, you know, maybe there's a name I didn't recognize, let me, you know, wait here just a minute, get on my computer and find out a little bit more information about these people so that I can make an informed choice. You can do that right from the comfort of your home.
Well, I do seminars all over the world, as you know, and I'm never quite sure what my schedule is going to be on election day. Somebody may call me and say, I need you in Keokuk, Iowa, or Timbuktu, for that matter. And so I have voted by mail. Probably, you can go back and check it, but I voted by mail for the last several elections at least. And you know, the thing I like about it is the ability to sit down and really study the wording of one of the ballot issues that go up on it. The marijuana issue, for instance, being able to sit and look at the marijuana issue and then compare it back and forth before I put my little mark on it.
Yeah, and we talk about, again, having the time to be able to do that, you know, and I always tell people that election day is not the first day to vote, it's the last day to vote. And, you know, you get hurried, you get into the polling site, into your privacy booth, and you start trying to read a referendum, and you're looking at your watch because you've got another appointment, you got to get out of there, and you might not read it properly, or you might not read it thoroughly, and you may not have come in prepared with your sample ballot. You know, that's the other thing. Everybody that is eligible to vote in Hillsborough County will receive a sample ballot, except people that vote by mail, because you get a real ballot sent to you. So we're going to send you a sample ballot that's specific to you. And we encourage people, you know, mark those up, do your research again, and then when you come in to either early vote or on election day to vote, you can bring that sample ballot with you, and you can transfer your marks right over to your official ballot at that time.
I always feel rushed while I'm I know there's people waiting and I'm hurrying, but it's a lot better at home. And for instance, with judges, I mean, how many of us, unless you're a criminal or you have some problem in real estate or something, come into contact with the judicial system?
Exactly.
And I have a good friend that works in the courts who I trust. They think along the same lines I do. So when it comes to elections of judges, I'll call them for their best opinion. And I can mark it out without having to worry about speed. So I really like that, but I think there's probably a lot of people who like to be able to go in there and actually shake the hand of their neighbor or whoever's sitting there and saying, I voted today.
Well, if you early vote, we also give you your I voted sticker. And as a matter of fact, we have 15 early vote sites around the county. And also at those early vote sites, you can return your vote by mail ballot. If you don't want to put it in the mail, you want to put it in the ballot box yourself, you can bring it to those early vote sites. And we have a separate area where these ballot boxes are.
Really? I didn't know that. I've done it for years.
And you can take it there and drop it in the box, and we'll give you an I voted sticker right there, because that's a lot of people I hear, they'll say, well, I don't want to vote by mail because I want an I voted sticker. And we can't put an I voted sticker in the mail piece. But you can sure drop it off at an early vote site, and we'll give you an I voted sticker there, or come by any of our 4 offices and you can drop them there, and we'll give you an I voted sticker. And I don't know if you're aware or not, Bill, but we pay the return postage back to our office on your vote by mail ballot now.
Really?
So yes, sir. So there's really no excuse not to vote, and there's not a whole lot of excuses not to vote by mail. We're going to send it to you. You've got the convenience of your home.
I'd pay to vote.
And well, our office is run on taxpayer money. And my thought is that you've already paid me once. I don't think you should have to pay again to turn your ballot in.
I have to tell you that the first time I ever went to vote was up in Ohio. I came from Michigan. I was stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I came down to Ohio and I got to vote the very first time. I remember going to this library to vote, and I was so proud of myself voting it all and turning it in. And when I went out, they didn't have the stickers. But this one lady stopped and said, now can I have my $3? And the person looked at her and said, $3? She said, yeah, down home, and I won't say down home which state that was, they always give us $3 when we left. Are you thinking about doing that to get the people to vote?
No, I'm in favor of a poll tax for people that don't vote. No, we're looking for a robust turnout this election. I think people are starting to really get a lot more in tune to the issues, things that are going on, not only in their community, statewide, nationwide. So we're really excited about it. I think that we're going to have some tremendous turnout. So that's what we're looking for.
Well, I agree with you. You need to go and vote. And there ought to be some penalty for not going down and voting, or at least showing up and saying, I don't want to vote, and just showing up at the polls or sending something back in. I don't agree with the party to which I have been 50 years a member, but I still go vote in the primaries so that I can get the best of the candidates that come as close to agreeing with me.
Yeah.
And to become an independent, I just would lose all that. I guess in some states like Michigan, you can actually, as an independent, go vote in one of the other primaries.
Some states don't have, as we do, what we call a closed primary. In some states, you can go in and vote for any candidate in the primary. Florida's a closed primary state, so you have to vote within your party. But we have a saying in our office too, Bill, and it's real simple, that there's politics and there's elections. We do elections. We don't do politics. So regardless of what party anybody's in, we're going to give them the best service that we can. That's one of our standards that we're going to have, is the best customer service, and it doesn't matter what party you're in or what you're there for.
Well, you're particularly good at that. Earl Leonard was good at that, keeping the office nonpartisan and just really doing the job for the people. Who runs the elections? When election day comes, who are these people out there and where do they come from?
We have 40 people. Then as we get towards the election, we hire approximately 400 temporary employees that are basically getting everything ready for the election. We've got 300 polling sites that we need to secure. We've got to get equipment out to those sites. We have to have poll workers. Now we add about 3,500 poll workers, and all those poll workers have to be trained. So we've got an entire cadre of trainers that are going to be out there getting these people ready, getting the polling sites ready, and it's a great task. We're very fortunate that we have a lot of word of mouth, people that spread the word about being poll workers, what a great civic job it is, a great civic duty. All our poll workers must be paid by law. There is no volunteer poll workers. It's not a high-paid job.
It's a stipend.
As I kid with them, it almost pays for their gas to get to and from the polling site. But we've got a great program that actually started a couple of years ago called Adopt a Precinct. And what we do is we try and encourage nonprofit organizations, 501c3s, to bring people out and work the polling sites. And then instead of writing the individual a check, we write the organization a check. And one of the greatest stories I like to tell, we had in the 10 election, we had a group of boys, it was a Boy Scout troop, and the parents all got together and they came and worked the elections. Mm-hmm. And we wrote them a check for, it was just about $3,000.
Wow.
And they used
That's
that money.
That's a lot of camping.
They used the money to repair their bus so that they could take the boys camping. But we have great organizations.
Great use of the money.
Absolutely. We've got great organizations all throughout this, this community that are out there that are already Adopt a Precinct partners. And they give us a great supply of poll workers and drop site workers. And it's a great benefit to them to be able to make these kind of funds also.
What are some of the functions that these people would serve? You say drop site worker. Is that taking this machine, which we're going to talk about shortly?
It would be taking some of the equipment, the ballots, the stuff that gets dropped off back at the drop site to come back to our office. We have about 20 drop sites around the county that are geographically located for convenience, obviously. Because you can imagine it's quite a bit. Like I said, we've got 300 polling sites that run basically from Keystone up in the northwest part of the county all the way down Waimama in the southeast part of the county. So yes, we have drop site workers that we bring on that bring all this equipment back to us on election night. And then of course we have the polling sites themselves where we have inspectors that check people in. We have the poll deputies that keep order in the polls.
Now, each party has somebody representing them, correct?
Each party has the ability to have representation at each precinct. Those are called poll watchers, okay, which are different from poll workers.
But they're not on staff then?
They are not.
They're volunteer for their party?
They are for the particular party or candidate, and they basically can come in and observe what takes place in the polling site. And we actually try and encourage them to, we offer our training to them in an online basis so that they understand when at the end of the night the clerk goes over and empties this out and puts it all into a ballot bag and puts a seal on it and seals that up, that's part of the procedure that we do instead of, oh my gosh, somebody was taking all the ballots out of the ballot box.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this machine.
Okay.
It's somewhat intimidating when I look at it, although it's kind of looking more like my office copier than anything I've seen in a few years. How does it work and how does it interface with the people coming in? Okay. Now I've walked in, I've verified who I am, and you've checked it, everything is right, and now I get to vote.
We've given you your ballot.
All right, so.
And you're gonna go fill your ballot out, and you're gonna bubble in your ballot for your selections. And then when you've finished your entire voting, you're going to come over to this machine here. This is actually a tabulator right here. And what it's going to do is tabulate the marks you've made on your optical scan ballot. It's attached to a motorized ballot box. And there's actually a tray inside this ballot box. And depending on whether or not there's any write-in candidates that you voted for, if there is, it'll put them on one side so they can easily be retrieved at the end of the night. Otherwise, they'll all just stack up. And you can take this ballot and you can put it into this machine here. It takes the ballot and it rejected that one because there's a mark on it there that it doesn't want.
Oh, so if you make a mistake.
If you make a mistake.
Not if you vote for the wrong candidate.
That's correct.
But if there's some obvious mistake.
That one was accepted.
See, what kind of mistake would...
We made an ambiguous mark on this one, so
okay,
it was reading
so
something that wasn't there, you know, it wasn't for that particular candidate. Now,
how close do I have to get into the little bubbles?
We want you to fill it in within the lines. You know, you need to fill it in.
That can be awful hard for some folks. But some of the people where I live, their hand shakes an awful lot.
Yeah, you can...
Is there some latitude?
No, there isn't. I mean, it will read it, and tell you, it'll reject it. But it's pretty,
Well, if
it's
let's
lenient
say,
enough. You don't have to be perfect with it.
well, let's say that it does reject it on me, then do I take it to,
You can take it back and get another one.
or take it to somebody for assistance?
You can do that. You can go back and get another ballot. We also, if you do have disabilities of some type that prohibits you from marking this, we have what's called the auto mark, which is a disability marking device for your ballot. And what you would do is you feed a blank ballot into it, and then you actually make the selections on a touch screen, and it puts the bubbles, it fills in the ovals on your ballot in a very uniform method. So that's another option for anyone with disabilities.
What about if well, let's say I'm blind and I can't read.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do? Can I bring somebody into the voting booth with me?
You can do that also, or you can use the auto mark disability marking device because it's capable of sip and puff marks. It also, if you're
Sip and puff.
right,
That sounds. Is this going to be on the marijuana part?
that could be, but yeah, where you actually use a straw to sip or puff at the time that you want your choice made.
Oh,
which is very common for someone
that's quadriplegics.
Quadriplegics, yes. So for
let's
let's use your example of a sight impaired person.
Okay.
They would put on the headphones, and they have a paddle that actually has Braille on it, and they can make the selections. They can actually play them back then to make sure that they made the appropriate selections.
Voice-wise?
Yep, they'll be able to hear it. It will talk to them, and it does it in both English and Spanish.
Wow.
So you can do it in either one. It will mark that ballot for you, and then they will come over, and with assistance, they can feed that ballot in, and it's accepted.
How many languages do you produce ballots in?
We produce ballots in 2 languages, English and Spanish. And that's because we're what's called a covered jurisdiction, where we met some threshold years ago, because we do have a large Latino population here in this county, as you know. I mean, let's look at
required
Ybor City
requirement to be able to speak English.
That is correct. That is correct. But we've got a lot of people that are naturalized citizen because their parents were citizens, and they've become citizens, and they might not have ever learned English.
Somehow doesn't seem right to me, but it's not your fault. It's somebody else's.
You know, a lot of people ask us, and some people get upset, why are you printing this in Spanish? And it is because we're required by the federal government, and it's right on the front of our website. If you want to explore that, we put it right there on the website to let people know why we have to print in Spanish also.
I guess there are jurisdictions that have to print in other languages too, correct?
There are. There's jurisdictions down in the south part of the state that are in Creole, or in Creek Indian. So yeah, there's different requirements around the state.
Wow. Now, I've voted.
Mm-hmm.
The machine has my information. Where does it go from here?
Well, from there, this information is going to be relayed back to our office, back to our server.
Is it relayed electronically?
Some of it is. Some of it's relayed electronically. Some of it we download right there at our office. It just depends on whether, if it's an early vote site, these are brought directly back to our office and we upload them right there at the office. No, at the end of the early voting. And on election day, they're transmitted back to our office.
But normally then this whole machine would be taken back to the office?
Yes, yeah, well, actually we'll just bring the top part back, the tabulator will come back.
I noticed there's some material printed here. Is this telling me what I...
But it tells you that your ballot was accepted, or in the case of the first one that I was using as an example there, that your ballot was rejected. And then we would look at that and say that you possibly overvoted your ballot, you voted for too many candidates, or you had ambiguous marks on there that the ballot, that the reader couldn't read, and give you an opportunity to correct that. Now, if you said, nope, that's it, I want to do it, then the poll worker has the ability to override it and accept it, but if it's an overvote, it's not going to count. So we encourage people to get it right.
Now, if I do have a write-in, you said that it was going to be separated. The ballot was going to be separated.
That's correct.
But is the name registered electronically that I wrote in?
No.
Or do you have to go through that by hand?
We physically go through there, and let's remind everybody that only qualified write-in candidates are accepted. So if you voted for Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, it's not going to be counted. It must be for a qualified write-in candidate.
what makes a qualified write-in candidate?
They have to come to our office and qualify.
And
They have to fill
to do that-
paperwork. They have to fill out paperwork. They have to, prove that they are not. They don't have to prove. They have to show that they're registered voters in that particular district where they want to run for that office. If it's countywide, they obviously have to be in the county. They have to fill out an oath of office, and then their name is available. Now, their name will never be on the ballot. The people will have to fill that name in on the ballot, but it won't be on the ballot.
Is there a qualification? I mean, do they have to have so many? I see people going out and getting names and turning them in to be able to get on the ballot, and that
The
a
write-in
write-in
candidate does not require
that.
Does not require a fee or petitions.
So they can run, but there's no fee. What is the fee to run? Does it vary by office?
It varies. It's generally a percentage of the salary is what it is.
And the amount of people that they have to get on petitions?
It's the same thing. It's percent.
Percentage of the previous vote?
Registered voters in the last presidential election.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And if it's by district, for instance, we have 4 county commission districts, so it would be the total divided by 4.
Now, you'll take these back, and these on this side will be counted. They'll go through and look to see that they are, in fact, qualified by virtue of coming to your office. The other side, or with the rest of them, what happens to them then?
They will be boxed up, and we will retain those by law for 22 months. And let me also add, Bill, I think this is very important for people to know that, the machine's done all this counting. At the end of this election, we do what's called a manual audit. And the canvassing board, which is now overseeing this election, the canvassing board will randomly select both a race and the precincts, and we have to use a percent of precincts. We will go retrieve all of those ballots, the vote-by-mail ballots, the early vote ballots, the election day ballots, and we will have humans then actually count those ballots to verify that the machine is counting accurately. Now, we also do what's called a logic and accuracy test before, where we use ballots that are pre-marked so that we know what the outcome is. We feed those ballots in, produce the results, and we know what the results should be.
Wow.
So there's a lot of checks and balances that go into this. It's not just we're putting it into a machine and saying, yep, that's the truth, there it is.
It's amazing. I mean, technology got us in trouble with the hanging chads and all this, but you have so many redundancies built into this that I feel pretty comfortable that it's a fair representation of what people actually wanted to be able to vote.
I agree with you. And when I started with the office in 2009, I was kind of wondering about the equipment because the previous supervisor had a lot of problems. It took him 3 days to count the votes. And so I was pretty suspect.
That was the previous supervisor.
I was pretty suspect of the equipment. I can tell you I'm very confident in it today. This equipment is from a company called Dominion, which is an international company. We've got a great relationship with them. They've used our office to do firmware upgrade testing with the state. I mentioned before that all the equipment that we purchase must be certified by the state.
We're going to have to go into that on another show. I really appreciate you being here.
Great to see you.
Craig Latimer, Supervisor Election, Hillsborough County. You're doing a great job. Thanks for all the effort for you and your staff. I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, and we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, Craig, thanks for being here and sharing all the information you shared with us.
Thank you.